So Limerick get finally on the front foot with a win against Cork at the fourth time of asking at this year's Alliance League. Obviously, they've gone through the first few games, weren't exactly on firing on all cylinders, really. But at this point now, putting 33 points up against Cork was serious going. And Cian Lynch roared back into form. A lot of the top players for Limerick certainly did, the likes of Diarmuid Byrnes did, Declan Hannon very safe at centre back. For Cork, I actually am not 100% sure if this is a particularly damaging defeat. I mean, 33 points to 219 is ugly enough, and I mean, it is notable the scoring that was done today. Not quite as much in the Antrim against Wexford game. I mean, that was pretty high scoring, but it wasn't quite to the same level. It was 33 points were put up by Clare in their win over Dublin. It was 218 to 121, which is a bit more of a regular scoreline in the Antrim Wexford game. But 33 points for Limerick, and they seemed like they were very much at their ease. Like the 27 points scored after 52 minutes, emptied the bench, gave a lot of young players who are promising plenty of time to come in and see if they could impact the game. And Cork probably got a lot of scores, later on in the game when it was garbage time, in the sense that, the game was over. It wasn't in question even. And like, one of the things that really stood out during the first half was how few chances Cork were even creating. So the first quarter of the game, it was done, 11 points to 1-3. And I know they pulled it back a little bit and it felt like, okay, maybe it can be a little bit of a game here. But realistically, it was done after the first quarter. And, what the stat that really stood out to me was Limerick had created more than 3 times as many chances in that opening 18 minutes or so. So they had 19 chances, put over 11 points. Cork had scored 4 of 6. And one of the big things that Limerick did was, the old saying about try and hammer the hammer. So Mark Coleman has been imperious at centre back, and Cork have looked really good at working the ball out from the back. Westmeath wasn't a major test. Obviously, they scored 7-27, so you couldn't really make a case for saying that it was. But the way they worked the ball out against Tipperary, it was really good. It doesn't necessarily make for a great game, but that's not Cork's fault. What's the point in going 50-50 long ball all the time? They do what's working for them. So I thought they'd looked quite impressive and thought they'll only get better at doing that. But Limerick, their high press up the field, I mean, they obviously saw that coming, this idea of working it out from the back. And, it was a very tough day for Patrick Collins in goal, as it was for all the defenders that he tried to feed. And so many of the Limerick players turned them over. Like Cian Lynch was very, very good. He was at the heart of so many of those turnovers, and obviously got himself 4 points from play. Thought Conor Boylan was very good, ran at the Cork defence throughout the first half. But the thing I'd say for Cork, and they scored 1-7 in the first half to Limerick's 20 points, and when you just look at it as 8 scores to 20, it can look a little bit embarrassing. But they kept going. Obviously, that's a big plus point. But the other thing is, they're young. They started with a somewhat experimental team. I think everybody saw that. And the likes of Patrick Horgan was on the bench. And there's a few more that we could have talked about. Even Luke Meade came in and he had an impact. But these young players for Cork, that they obviously feel like they're going to have to take them on to the next level. Ultimately, it kind of just, they need to get exposed to this level at some point. And, 219 to 33 points, it's a little bit ugly, but at least now, Kieran Kingston probably knows fairly close to what his starting 15 is. But now some of those younger players that might have had a tough time with it tonight and maybe grew into the game eventually, at least they know what the intensity is going to be like when they're down at the, if they have to come on in the Munster semi-final in a few weeks' time. Because that's probably what you're building towards here. And maybe that's why Kieran Kingston decided, I'm not going to go with the full starting 15. And, John Kiley didn't go with his starting 15 either. He had the likes of Colin Coughlin playing wing back, and he was quite good. So, some of the decision-making from Cork in the first half, they were going for goal. A couple of times, maybe the likes of Robbie O'Flynn could have taken a handy point rather than try to work it inside. Shane Kingston the same, I think, in the second half. Also in the first half. And the thing, though, is that Cork were going for goal regularly, as they have done throughout the league so far. They look like there's a killer instinct in them. We saw it the first day against Waterford, where they worked the ball through the hands very regularly, but they were always direct towards goal and got 5 goals that day. They're up against Galway in their final game, so that'll be an interesting test as well, because Galway would be considered among the All-Ireland challengers that Limerick are going to have to face at some point this year. But Cork were going for goal, and they certainly did look like they could score. I mean, obviously they got that one in the first half that came through. Jack O'Connor, who got the second one as well. The way he spun his man brilliantly. I think it was he spun Richie English after a ball across from Jerry Limerick and batted it into the net, and that was excellent. Obviously, Patrick Horgan came on. He got a few frees, and he got one or two from play as well. He's such a touch of class as well. He requires so much minding. But Cork did create the goal chances. Obviously, Richie English knocked that one off the line that Shane Kingston pulled on. And there were other opportunities as well. So I think Cork will take some solace from that, realising that they can cut through, that when Luke Meade is in there, that he can do damage, that obviously Patrick Horgan can. Jack O'Connor is probably getting very used to scoring goals at this point. The likes of Tim O'Mahony will come back into the team as well. So while Cork looked very, very out of it in terms of trying to win this game, were very much struggling to keep with Limerick. I think there are sort of some crumbs of comfort. On the Limerick side of things, they got their first win. That's important. It kind of, I suspect they might have got that if they had to stay up with 15 men against Waterford the first day, 10 points to 5 ahead when Seamus Flanagan got sent off. But I think some players stepped up for Limerick. Aaron Gillan got himself a couple of scores, probably more so he got minutes into himself than anything else. The likes of Dermot Burns really stood out. Sean Finn, of course, is ever standing out. But a good win for Limerick, certainly, and they'll be very happy with how they've done. Cork would have learned something. So it was a heavy defeat, and they took the bad look off the scoreline towards the end, as probably Limerick took their foot off the gas a little bit. But Limerick looking in rude health again, and it had the feel of Limerick 2020 and, for the most part, 2019 and obviously 2018 as well. So let me know what you think.